Hey everybody. It's been a while. Welcome back to another ASMR video. It's been quite a while since I've been sitting in front of my PC recording this, but I felt like I was in the mood, so I thought I would do it. So today we're gonna be going over the 2022 Senate, which is something I've been watching very closely. Not that there was like a lot to watch for. It's as I'm recording this, it's October 4th, 2021. So this would be like an October prediction. It would probably help if I actually got the map out. Okay, so this is the 2022 map, and this map is, at a glance, you can tell favorable for Democrats. The reason is even if you don't know anything about politics, it's that there's 36 seats to start for Democrats and 30 to start with Republicans. This is a very good map for Democrats. They start up with 6 seats, and most of the Democratic seats on this map are safe, which is good because it means that Democrats have a lot of room for error. They have a decent amount of error. They have to guard a lot of seats, but they have a few potential pickups as well. Excuse me throughout this. I'm going to be drinking some water, so my voice doesn't get all too raspy. That being said, so now, of course, if you don't know anything about politics, this map just looks like a bunch of states, and that's true, but hopefully you do know that, like, in America, certain states vote for a certain party every single time. Now, of course, these shift over decades, but, as for now, there are many safe states. Let's start off with the Republican ones. So, Idaho, Utah, North and South Dakota, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Alabama, South Carolina, Kentucky, Indiana, Missouri, and now I'm also free to characterize Iowa as safe, and I'll get into that later. So basically, a safe state in this means that a person will win the election with more than 15% of the vote. So, like, for example, a 42% to 57% final vote total, that's a difference of 15, which means that it would be a safe election. The next categorization would be likely. So, for example, this would be likely. This is within 5 to 15%. So anywhere in between there would be a likely characterization, and then lean. And lean is like 1 to 5%. And then tilt is less than 1% or equal to 1%. So that being said, we have all the safe states. The reason that I'm now characterizing Iowa as a safe state is because of Chuck Grassley has confirmed that he is rerunning for Senate. Iowa is normally not a safe race for either party, but Chuck Grassley has been in Iowa politics for what is now a third of the time that Iowa has been a state. And that being said, this means that, if you look back at his past elections, he has outperformed Trump by 15% in Iowa. He won, I think, in 2016, he won that seat by 24%, and Trump won the state by 9%. That is a massive overperformance. So he's running again. I don't see any reason why this would be different. So I'm now very confident in saying that Iowa is a safe seat. Missouri, another safe seat. I didn't want to characterize this as likely, but given that the national environment for Democrats has recently soured, I don't think there's any way that they're going to be able to make this race competitive by like any metric. So I'm much more confident in characterizing it safely, which is good. This means we get more safe seats down, so we can really narrow what states are going to be competitive. That being said, let's fill in the safe Democratic seats. These include California, Oregon, Washington, Hawaii, Colorado, Illinois, Maryland, New York, Connecticut, Vermont, And that's it. So, as you can see at a first glance, Republicans or Democrats have a 2-seat advantage in terms of safe seats. It's 46 to 44 right now. Now, some might argue that Colorado may not be a safe seat, and you can probably genuinely argue that it might be like within a 12-13% victory, but that can manifest itself later on in a political season, like at least like 8 months from now, like when we get much better polling to see maybe Michael Bennett is not performing as good as he used to be. But as of now, Colorado is a safe Democratic state. I do not believe that he will have any problems, even if it gets a little bit more competitive. So you can either characterize this as like a safe or likely. Honestly, it doesn't matter. So I'm just going to keep it as, safe right now. And if things get a little bit more dicey later on, we're going to change that characterization. But as of now, I see no reason to change that. So again, this map, favorable for Democrats. Now, let's fill in the likely Democrat states. And likely Democrat states, in my opinion, is just New Hampshire. Now, to people who do know about politics, this might seem a little bit controversial to say that New Hampshire is likely. And I think I understand why. Now, the reason is because there's a lot of buzz that the governor of New Hampshire, Chris Sununu, is going to run this race. And he's going to do well because he's a popular governor. Now, I have a contention with that. In the sense that statewide races, such as governor, do not equate to national races like Senate. Let's look at Montana in 2020. This had a Senate seat up. A lot of people thought that the Senate seat was going to be very hotly contested between Steve Bullock and Steve Daines. I think Steve Daines is the Democrat one. Was supposed to make the race very close because he's a very popular politician in Montana. That's what a lot of people thought. Turns around, you come around to election night, and the Republican one, I think it's Steve Bullock, wins by 10%. That's not even close. Like, compared to like what people thought, like it would be like a lean race, 1 to 5%. Being 10% is not fantastic. Despite the fact that Steve Daines was a very popular Democrat from Montana, probably one of the most popular politicians in Montana, wasn't even able to come close. So even if Chris Sununu runs in New Hampshire, I feel that that same thing applies, that he would be able to make it closer, probably to lean, or maybe even to tilt, but I don't feel like he can unseat Maggie Hassan. Maggie Hassan has already won a tilt race in 2016. It's clear that she's possible of doing it against Kelly Ayotte, but the reason that I don't think that Chris Sununu was going to run in the first place is because, look at other states. Like, let's take Pennsylvania for example, which I'll characterize. John Fetterman, the front-runner Democrat, has announced his bid to run in the Senate in March. It's October, okay? And when you don't make a campaign, at a certain time, you're going to start missing fundraising goals, which is really important, especially in a state that Republicans believe and a lot of Democrats believe could make the race very competitive. So if you're missing fundraising goals in a very competitive state, that's not good. That does not bode well, which leads me to believe he's just going to stay as governor. He's going to run for a second term as governor. He's going to win that race very easily. But every day that he doesn't run is a day we come closer to the inevitable fact that he doesn't at all. So I think we're starting to get to that territory where okay, well, maybe Chris Sununu isn't running. So this is under the assumption that he doesn't run. I feel like Maggie Hassan will be just fine in New Hampshire. She obviously will not make it safe. That is a crazy suggestion. However, I feel like there's no way that Republicans pick up the seat without Chris Sununu. Moving on to the Republican likely states, I have Alaska, Ohio, and is that it? No, Florida. Okay. So first off, starting with Alaska. Alaska has ranked choice voting. I feel like either way, it's not going to be within a 10% victory. The last Senate election in 2020 was a 10% victory for Republicans as Alaska starts to shift to the left. We're going to start seeing these Senate races become more and more contested. Democrats are going to start to realize these are cheap Senate seats. There's not a lot of people in Alaska, which means that you don't have to sway a lot of voters to vote a certain way. And as Alaska gets naturally more competitive because of Native American turnout, then this race is going to start becoming more viable for Democrats. So I think whatever happens, if there is a Democrat on the final ballot because of ranked choice voting, then it'll definitely be within 10%. It'll probably be Al Gross. That being said, Democrats don't have a chance in Alaska. They're not going to win it in 2022. Ohio is a race that people want to be competitive. I want it to be competitive just on the fact that I like close elections. Tim Ryan is running against what's probably going to be Josh Mandel. That being said, Tim Ryan is kind of trying to be like Sherrod Brown, who is a very successful Democrat in Ohio, but it's not the same. And as a result, Ohio is a R+8 state. It voted 8% to the Republicans. I think Tim Ryan can maybe make it. He can make it closer. I feel like maybe he would lose by 5-6%. I feel like in a good year he can lose by 3 or 4. In a really good year he could win, but a really good year is not going to happen for Republicans or Democrats in 2022. So this race it's obviously going to the Democrat or Republicans, but I feel like Tim Ryan can make the numbers a little bit close. He can outperform Biden in some suburban white-collar areas. In Florida, again, Marco Rubio is not going to have any trouble in Florida by any stretch, whether it be Val Demings, I think, is the one that's probably going to get the nomination. I think Marco Rubio can run away. He's a pretty popular incumbent, could probably run away with 6, 7, 8% of the victory here. I don't think it'll be a lean state at any point in time. So about 6, 7, 8%. Maybe even 9% for Marco Rubio. Alright, so now let's get into the lean Democrat states. There's 4 of them right now. First one's Nevada, and then Arizona, and then Georgia, and then Pennsylvania. Let's go through all these states. The first one is Nevada. Now, there's really not been a lot to suggest that Nevada is going in a way that's going to the right. There was recent polls today for, these are some of, I checked them over, some of the only good polls that have come out recently, where Cortez Masto has a 4% victory or so. I have a 4% lead, and that's strong. Alright, neither are at 48%, but 44, a 4% lead, is strong. So in terms of that, I don't feel as an incumbent she's probably going to be just fine. Probably win by about 3 to 4%. Republicans are definitely looking to make this race competitive. If they can pick up a Nevada Senate seat, they would be overjoyed. But as of right now, I really don't see the shift happening. I really don't see, a really strong contender against Masto. I think she'll be fine. Arizona, Mark Kelly is a very popular incumbent as of now, much outperforming Kirsten Sinema. He's just a strong candidate. That's really all there is to it. There's polls out, numerous polls. They're not fantastic polls, mind you, but they have Kelly leading by 6, 7, 8%. And that's really good for right now. Can that change? Yeah, absolutely. I want to remind you guys that a lean characterization does not necessarily mean that the state is going to vote that way. A lean characterization simply means Democrats have an upper hand. Can Democrats win Georgia, Arizona, Nevada, Pennsylvania? Absolutely. 100% without a doubt. Does that mean that they have an upper hand? No. It means that Democrats have an upper hand, and that's completely fine. But yeah, Arizona, I think it's very clear to look at every data and every shift that you can look at and say that Mark Kelly is more than likely than not going to run away with 3, 4, maybe even 5% of the vote. People will say, well, Arizona is an anti-conservative, it's anti-Trump, and that Mark Kelly only did good because he was running against a bad candidate, and that's true. He outperformed Biden by 2.5%. That's really strong in a swing state. That being said, when people say that like Martha McSally was a bad candidate, unequivocally, yes, she was. That being said, despite the fact that she was a bad candidate, do you know who else was a bad candidate in Arizona? Trump. And Biden and Trump, Biden only edged out a 0.3% victory. Martha McSally and Donald Trump were equally bad Arizona candidates. Despite the fact of that, Mark Kelly still ran away with a much bigger vote share than what Biden got. As a result, Mark Kelly just points to me that Mark Kelly's a strong candidate. In Georgia, again, there has been some polls out. Granted, they're about 2 months old, I think, that show that Warnock has a small but solid lead over who will probably be the nominee, Herschel Walker. So as far as that goes, Georgia is very obviously going to the left very quickly, quicker than Arizona is. It would absolutely not surprise me if this race was a 2-3% victory for Warnock. However, Warnock is not a perfect candidate. In fact, I would not even say that he's a good candidate. Because of that, I could totally see Herschel Walker winning this race. But as of now, we know that Georgia has the demographics on its side and that Warnock has a slight upper hand. So, the state is lean. Now, of course, this can and probably will change. And lastly, in Pennsylvania, my home state, the presumptive nominee, I don't really feel like you'll have that much of, competition against Connor Lamb. John Fetterman will likely win the primary and go on to fight who is probably going to be Sean Parnell, who is a Trumpist Republican. The issue is in Pennsylvania, Republicans do not have a recognizable name to run in the state. On the other hand, Democrats have an extremely recognizable name in John Fetterman. He is the lieutenant governor, which means that he was on a ticket, technically not elected, but he was elected with the governor. He is extremely recognizable. Everybody knows his name. Now, compared to like a lot of these runners like but Sean Parnell, nobody really knows who these people are. And name recognition is really important in elections like this, especially when they're competitive. Pennsylvania has shown itself to be pretty purple, if not light blue, under the hood in terms of governors and state and Senate elections. As a result, I really do believe that John Fetterman has everything going for him in this race. He appeals to rural white working classes, and every other Democrat would vote for him, because why wouldn't they? I feel like John Fetterman has every upper hand here. Polls have shown him up way more than the lean margin. I think like 8%, and that's a lot, but I don't buy that. I buy, from what I've seen and what I know about the state, that this is definitely a lean blue race. I'm very, very confident in Pennsylvania being a lean blue race. Lastly, we have two seats that are both lean Republican. That would be Wisconsin and North Carolina. As far as Wisconsin goes, I'm very, very middle of the road on whether or not this state is lean or tilt, and I think I would say it's lean just to keep it more uniform. I don't want that to be like the only tilt state. I don't think Wisconsin is the closest state on this map, so we'll call it lean. This is because demographics are on the Republican side, kind of like how it's the opposite in Georgia. Republicans have a lot going for them. The state is losing population in its urban areas. It's shifting to the right pretty hard. And also it has an incumbent. The incumbent, however, is not very popular. Why can't I remember his name? I'm sorry. What's his name? Ron Johnson. Ron Johnson's not terribly popular, but he is an incumbent, and that's important. But because of demographics, I do have to give this to an upper hand. We'll have to see more data before we characterize it further. In terms of North Carolina is a state that, again, I don't know if I've said it in a previous video, is very stubbornly just barely out of reach for Republicans. Kind of like how Nevada is. Nevada is always close blue, but it is always close blue. Same with North Carolina. Democrats really spoiled the chance to win a Senate seat here in 2020. And now it's an open seat, but it's in a Democrat backlash year because they are the incumbent party. As a result, there is no way that I think Democrats are going to be able to pick up North Carolina unless something substantial happens. Ted Budd, who will probably be the nominee, will be just fine. I think he could probably carry it around the same way that Democrats are going to carry Nevada and Arizona. I just don't see any data to suggest that the North Carolina race is going to be a Democrat pickup. It'll probably be around a 3 to 4% victory. So anyway, this is how I stand currently on the 2022 Senate. Democrats pick up one seat, which is Pennsylvania. Everything else stays the exact same. Is this the final map? Absolutely not. If you're watching this and it's like 2022, like October 2022, and you're like, wow, this map is dumb, yeah, I mean, it totally could be. We don't know that for sure. We don't know. But this is just going off of all the data that we have right now. Will this map change? More likely than not. Will it get more Republican orientated? Yes, probably. Because, again, it's a Democrat backlash here. So, looking at all the data that I have in front of me and my skills at prognosticating very amateurly certain races, this is how I think that the current map looks like. So, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but if indeed you are still watching, thank you very much for listening to me ramble on about something I really do truly care about. Thank you very much for watching, and, of course, good night.